Today in this tutorial, we are going to discuss the various storage organization strategies that we use in runtime. And so the executing target program runs in its own logical address space in which each program value has a location. So we know that we have physical address space, logical address space, etc. Right? So executing target program runs in its own logical address space in which each program value has a location. Within that logical address space, each program value will be having a location. And the management and organization of this logical address space is provided by compiler, operating system, and also the target machine. And operating system is the one which map the logical address into the physical address. So the runtime memory we can typically divide into this following subdivisions. The first one is code area. So from the name itself we can imagine, right? The code area will be used to store the generated executable instructions. Okay, so the generated executable instructions will be stored in the code area, and memory locations for the code are determined at the compile time. The compile time itself, the memory locations for the code will be determined. Next is static data area. It is the locations of data that can be determined at compile time. So in code area, we use to store generated executable instruction. In static data area, location of data will be stored and will be determined at compile time. And stack area is used to store the data object allocated at the runtime. Okay, so data object allocated at runtime will be stored in stack area. Examples are activation records. Next is heap. Heap is used to store other dynamically allocated data objects at runtime. Okay, so example is malloc. So these are the subdivision of runtime memory. Now this can be again further subdivided into the following: generated executable code, static data object, dynamic data objects, heap, and automatic data object stack. So this previous slide we discussed on areas, and this include the data which is contained in those areas. Next is activation record. So this was discussed in the last tutorial itself. It is a LIFO structure used to hold information about each instantiation. So when a procedure is called, its activation record will be generated. And procedure calls and returns are usually managed by a runtime stack called control stack. This was also discussed in the previous tutorial. Then each live activation has an activation record on control stack with a root of the activation tree at the bottom, and the later activation has its record at the top of a stack. So in the last class we discussed a root will be executed first, then upon the instantiation of each procedure we will be storing that procedures within the stack. Thus stack top will be containing the activation record of the procedure that is executed at that particular time. Next is contents of activation record vary with the language being. Now this activation record have several fields. I will discuss what are the importance or what are the values that are stored in that particular field. So first is temporary values. Temporary values are nothing, just the values that we assign for a particular temporarily that we assign. For example, int a equal to 0, it will be changed at the execution of program. So that temporary values will be stored in the temporaries. Then field for local data holds data that is local to execution of a procedure. So within a function there will be data, right? So that local data will be stored in this field. Then saved machine status. So now that is nothing rather than the value that is stored in program counter and machine register before going into a function. So that is stored in saved machine status. We know when a particular procedure is called, all the values will be saved so that it can return to that function. So for that it will be stored in saved machine status. The field for saved machine status holds information about the state of the machine just before the procedure is called. This information includes value of program counter and machine registers that have to be restored when control returns from the procedure. Then there is an optional access link. So this is used to refer to non-local data held in other activation records. Okay, data that is not local to a particular function and the data that is stored in other activation records, that link will be provided in optional access link. The next is optional control link. It points to activation record of the caller function. Okay, so when a function calls other function, one is the caller and other is the callee. So controlling points to activation record of the caller. Then we have field for actual parameters. Okay, it is used by the calling procedure to supply parameters to the called procedure. Okay, so if I have a function sum a comma b, if I am giving values a is equal to 10 and b equal to 20, that is the actual parameters. So that a equal to 10 and b equal to 20 is passed through this actual parameter field. Okay, then field for return value. If the sum is 30, right? So it should be returned to the call function. That is returned by using this return value field. Field for return value is used by the called procedure to return a value to the calling procedure. Next, we have several storage allocation strategies: static allocation, stack allocation, and heap allocation. So static allocation, it lays out storage for all data objects at compile time. Okay, so at the compile time, storage is allocated. It forms static allocation, and in the case of stack allocation, it manages runtime storage as a stack. So it will have certain limitations because we know that for a stack the memory should be contiguous. So in order to overcome that, we introduced heap allocation. Now we know that for heap, the contiguous allocation is not required. Wherever the memory is free, we can give a pointer to that information. So these three different allocation strategies are introduced. First, we will see what is the static allocation. So it means storage as the program is compiled. So there is no need for a runtime support package. Then since the binding do not change at runtime, as every time a procedure is activated, names are bound to the same storage locations. Okay, since the binding do not change at runtime, whenever a particular function is activated, it refers to same storage location. Therefore, value of local names are retained across activations of a procedure. What is that? When control returns to a procedure, the value of local variable are same as they were when control left the last time. Okay. From the type of a name, the compiler decides the amount of storage for the name and decides where the activation records go. At compile time, we can fill in the address at which the target code can find the data it operates on. Then the static allocation have certain limitations. First, the size of a data object and constraints on its position in memory must be known at compile time. Then second one is we cannot implement any recursive procedures. And third one, data structures cannot be created dynamically. So these are the three limitations of static allocation scheme. The next is stack allocation based on the idea of control stack. Okay, so based on the idea of control stack, we had discussed in the previous tutorial. We know at the beginning the root or the main function will be pushed the stack. Then as and when the procedures are called, its activation record will be pushed to the stack. So each time a procedure is called, space for its local variables is pushed onto the stack, and when procedure terminates, space is popped off of the stack. Then calling sequences. The procedure calls are implemented by generating what are called calling sequences. Okay, procedure calls are implemented by generating calling sequences. And a call sequence allocates an activation record on the stack and enters information into its field. So when a procedure is called, it will generate a call sequence, and it is that call sequence that allocate the activation record on the stack and enters the valid information. A return sequence is similar to code to restore the state of a machine so that the calling procedure can continue its execution after the call. Okay, so code of calling sequence is often divided between a calling procedure or the caller and the procedure it calls. It's called calling. Okay, calling sequences code can be divided into two: the caller and the calling. So when deciding calling sequences and layout of the activation record, the following principles should be kept in mind. So first one is value communicated between caller and callee is generally placed at the caller beginning of callee's activation record. Okay, it will be placed at the caller beginning of callee's activation record. What? That is the value communicated between the caller and callee. Okay, usually will be the parameters. Second, fixed length items will be generally placed in the middle. Okay, so it will include control link, access link, machine status field. Then item whose size may not be known early should be placed at the end of the activation record. So we must locate the top of the stack pointer judiciously. A common approach is to have it point to end of fixed length fields in the activation record. Okay, so it can be accessed by fixed offsets known as intermediate code, known to the intermediate code generator related to top of the stack pointer. Okay, so that fixed length data will be related to a stack pointer. Okay, with fixed offset value. The, the calling sequence and its division between the caller and callee as follows. So we already mentioned that a calling sequence is divided into caller sequence and callee sequence. So this division is as follows. Caller evaluate the actual parameters. That is the first step. Okay, so when I call sum 1 comma 2, 1 and 2 are actual parameters, so it evaluates actual parameters caller, then it stores the return address and the old value of top sp into the callee's activation record. So once the value is computed by the callee, it should be returned to particular statement. So the caller will store that return address and old value of that pointer into callee's activation record, and caller will then increment the top to respective position. Then the callee will save the register values and other status information, and callee will initialize its local data and begins execution. Why it is initializing local data? Because when we call a function, a copy of the variable will be created locally by the function, and all the value will be computed at the local variables. So that is why it initializes the local data and begins execution. Now, when a return sequence, what is the corresponding return sequence? Callee will place the return value next to parameter. Then, using the information of the machine status field, Callee will restore the top SP and other registers and branches to return address. Then, okay, so caller will know what is the correct top SP. Okay, because it is relative to particular value of top sp, because we have discussed in the previous slide it will be related to a particular fixed point. Now this is an example to show a dynamically allocated array. Now this we can see that this is a procedure P, activation record of P is there, this variable length array is there. Now when a procedure a queue is called by P, an activation record for queue will be created, and again queue have another variable length array. So everything is maintained in the stack. Everything we can maintain in this stack. So this top represent the stack top, and top sp it means the current activation record. Okay, So this is an example how we can allocate variable length arrays in a stack. Now next is dangling reference. So what is dangling reference? If we have a pointer to a particular activation record and now that activation record is not used, then we can say that it is a dangling reference. Okay, so this is one problem that can occur during the allocation. Heap allocation is another one. So heap allocation is usually implemented when in situations where we cannot implement static allocation or stack allocation. So stack allocation strategy cannot be used when the value of local names must be retained when an activation ends and when a called activation outlives the caller. So heap allocation parcels of pieces of continuous storage as needed for activation records or other objects. That is, wherever the memory is free, we can allocate data to that. So pieces may be deallocated in any order. So over the time, the heap will consist of alternate areas that are free and in use. So this is an example. See, S is the root of the procedure or the main function. Now there was first it called R, so an activation tree of R was created. Once activation record of R is terminated, it has to call Q. So in the case of the heap, it is possible to allocate another particular space for Q and can make a reference to Q. Okay, so that is the importance of heap allocation. The record for activation of procedure R is retained when the activation ends. Therefore, record for new activation Q19 cannot follow that for S physically. So if the retained activation for R is deallocated, there will be free space in the heap between the activation records for S and Q. So hope you have understood this tutorial.